Oh my gosh, guys, this is like old home month for me when it comes to cards and decks on the channel. I have just been feeling so nostalgic for decks that I've had in the past and have let go of or have gifted and now want to have returned to my collection. And so today we're going to do an unboxing or revisiting with the Archeon Tarot. Way back in the day when my channel was a little baby channel, I was obsessed with the Archeon Tarot. I loved the artwork. I used it a lot. And then just over time, it's been one of those decks that I lost track of. But I was recently really reminiscing about the grittiness of the Archeon Tarot. And there's a specific image in this deck, the Five of Wands, that I love and adore, and that is kind of like often in my mind's eye. And that image showed up the other day while I was driving, and I was like, I have to get the Archeon Tarot again. And I checked Amazon and it was available for purchase at a very reasonable price. And I was like, okay, that's a sign. It's time. Archeon Tarot, here we come. It's time for us to connect again. So if I have previous content featuring the Archeon Tarot on the channel, I will put the links to those videos down below. But other than that, let's like open it up and talk about it a little bit. I do know the personality of how this deck interacts with me relatively well, so I can definitely speak to that. It's a US Games deck. And it is by Timothy Lantz. Here's the front. And the back just says complete with 78 cards and the booklet. Let's try not to break a nail today because I know I have another layer of plastic to get through here. But like, here's that raven with that light there. And I really do consider this a dark themed deck for the most part. Oh, and I should say there is nudity in this deck. I'm probably gonna get in trouble with YouTube for that. I don't think about that. There is nudity in this deck, so if you have kids around, you don't want them to see that, or you just personally don't want to see a deck with nudity, then this deck is not for you. Okay. Oh my gosh, there's like, so we gotta get through all the plastic stuff. So here's the little white book that it comes with. It is all in English. So you are getting like, you know, I don't know, it says 47 pages with some jumping off points for each card. The majors have a couple paragraphs, the minors just pretty much have one. And then he talks about Freud and Jung, and he says, consider the Archeon Tarot a window into the mythology of one man's world, or at least how he imagines his world to be. So let's look at the deck together. So this is like the throwaway card, and then little description on the deck itself, stemming from words like archaeology and eons and archons, which were the regents of civil and cultural affairs in ancient Athens. So let's get into the artwork together now. So this seems less shinier than I remember my original being, but I could be totally wrong on that. Satin, as one of you recently let me know. Here's my gripe with the Archeon Tarot over time is I feel like a lot of space is lost around the borders, and I wish we didn't have them. But what I've been considering doing is perhaps trimming it and allowing it to be a smaller deck and working with it in that way. So there are card images that I adore in this deck, like this one, the High Priestess, and then ones that don't do it for me, like the Empress. You know, it's one of those decks where it's very much, some of the artwork speaks to me and some of it doesn't. But I will say, one of my favorite depictions of the Chariot ever. I gotta say that I love that depiction of the Chariot. As much as my personal experience with the Chariot is rife with emotion, it is a gorgeous representation of the Chariot. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what it's like to work with if you haven't worked with the Archeon Tarot on your own. It's very much in alignment with a dark deck for me. Like, it's a dark themed deck for me, and it definitely works very well for those kind of darker areas that we want to get into, whether it be shadow or like what's going on underneath the surface of a situation. I like this Tower card. Anything like that, this deck is going to be a nice sweet spot for you. I do have some nudity here. I love this depiction of the moon. So it's a really great deck for that type of work. But I have to say also, though, I really did find this deck to be very great for general reads, for, you know, feeling into the energy of things outside of necessarily just the shadow world. So I think you have a lot of options with this deck. But I think you also really have to be very much connected to the artwork, or this is one much like Burning Paper Hearts Witches Tarot that's not going to work for you because, excuse me, because you don't have, you know, a lot of the traditional symbolism of a Rider-Waite, straight up Rider-Waite Smith style, although you have a little bit more in this one than the Witches Tarot. But it can be difficult if you don't feel a connection with the deck and the artwork in the deck to be able to read with it very well. I love this Eight of Cups image. So I would say this is one where you do really want to be connected to the artwork, or at least it brings up, you know, a serious amount of emotion for you so that you can get the most out of the time that you spend with this deck. Like this Queen of Cups, like, I'm sorry, this looks like Gwyneth Paltrow, right? Like, I don't see, this is one of those things where some of the images I absolutely adore, and then some of them I'm just like, I don't understand what you were thinking, but like, that's okay and that's fine. Like, I don't feel it for that ace. I do like this too. The 3 is meh, and you guys know that's typically like a determiner for me if I'm gonna love a deck or not. This actually is not one of my favorite depictions of the 3. However, I do, like, I have really missed this deck. Okay. I love this image though. This image does a lot for me. This is the 5 of Swords. This is a gorgeous one. 6 of Swords. I like the 8, and I do love this 9. It's very beautiful depiction of, you know, the prison that we find ourselves trapped in mentally with the 9 of Swords. And we have the 10. And like some of them I really love. Like, I love this Herald of Swords. I love this Knight. Like, I don't know. I don't like his queens so much. They're like, blah. Like, what is that? I don't know. There's the King. This 2 of Pentacles is stunning. So 3, and I actually really love this 4 of Pentacles as well. See, I am really glad I got this deck again now, because like you could really meditate with this image very powerfully, and really, like, you could really go into some deep meditation and further define and clarify how you connect with the 4 of Pentacles, and also be opened up to some other ways of interpreting the card as well. Because that's always like the worst thing for us, is when we get trapped in how we interpret and read, and we get stuck, and it's like, and listen, I know, because after you've been reading for a while, someone just says 6 of Pentacles to you, and you just, you know, ring off and list off like all the different meanings that 6 of Pentacles has for you. So once you've been reading for a while, you do develop your own language with it, but it is important, in order to not stagnate, that you keep exploring new ways of working with the cards. And I really, you know, I think imagery like that gives you something to go into, to journey into, and to get to know in a new way, in an exciting way, right? Okay, this Knight is not where it's at for me. So far, the only queen that I like. It's funny how many of the images that I had lost track of, how much I loved them. Oh, look at that 3 of Wands. That's so beautiful. Just the 4. Now I know why. And yeah, I love this 5, because for me also it's very Lord of the Rings reminiscent. There's that with the white hand of Sauron. I love this image. I think it's very indicative of a space around how competitiveness and an ability to like really be a little bit cocky about ourselves sometimes, there's a time and a place for that, right? There's a time when it's not healthy, or when we need to be aware that other people aren't interacting with us in the same level of authenticity than we are. And there's times when this means, hey, there's going to be a little bit of a fight here, prepare yourself. But there's also that time when we feel like we can rise to meet the challenge, right? And that's Five of Wands energy for me when it's in its upright space, right? And I just love like the power that you feel coming from this image. This Seven of Wands has always been interesting to me. I remember when I was first reading the cards, and Seven of Wands would sometimes be tricky for me. And I remember looking at this in the deck, the first time I looked at this deck, being like, what the fuck? Like, I have to sit with how they're depicting the traditional meaning for Seven of Wands with this. This Eight of Wands is gorgeous. And I get this 10. Not my favorite, but I get, you know, I get the choices that were made there. I love this Herald. I don't know about this one. This is another queen that I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. I do like that the depiction of the kings in Timothy's deck, though. They look like older in energy and like they've been through a lot. And I mean that in a positive way. Like, I think that is the energy of the king. The king is not at the beginning of his journey. He's in a space of authority. Now, whether you consider, you know, the gender is whatever, like I'm talking about the energy of the kings in the court cards, right? And it is someone, a person who has lived through a lot, who is in a space of authority, and who has stories to tell, right? You're not going to be this, you know, in the king energy at 10 years old, right? So I'm very excited to work with this deck. It's definitely satin finish now, as opposed to, it was shinier when I had this deck before. I feel like for sure it was shinier. Yeah, it was shinier. I don't know. I'm learning that sometimes I like the shininess, so I'm not sure how I feel about it being satin. Here's a comparison of the size with the line strider. It's thinner, but pretty much the same length. Seriously, I've been drawing the Six of Cups all the time. Look at this, Six of Cups right there. What the heck? What the heck? I do think this is a great dark themed deck. I'm gonna trim it. I'm gonna cut out some of the border so I can really just focus on the imagery itself. And I will share my thoughts after I trim the deck and work with her for a while again, just reconnecting with this deck and seeing how we do now. You know, as I'm so much further into the journey with my walk with tarot, with my life with tarot. But I am really glad that I repurchased this. There are some cards that I'm really excited to dive back into. And like I said, it's also a nice little DIY project because I get to do some crafting with the deck too, which is fun. I might actually do the edges in black. What do you think? Black or like a gold? I think that would look good. So anyhow, I hope you are all well out there in the world. I am sending you so much love and many blessings, and I'll see you in the next video.